Hey, this is John. Welcome back to Modern Old School Developer. We've been focusing a lot on the front end recently, and there's a lot of placeholder data here, but I'd like to start working with the back end so we can store and retrieve actual data. So let's see what we need to do to get that up and running. So I'm going to start off by making a new file. It'll be in the backend directory, and inside there it's going to be in Movie Manager. That's going to be our Python module for all of our Movie Manager backend stuff. And we're going to do __init___.py. So this is basically just to tell Python that this folder is a Python module. So Movie Manager Python module. All right. Okay, now I did notice one thing missing from our requirements.txt file. So if you haven't touched that since we first set up our environment, make sure you do pip install SQLAlchemy, or if you get the latest version of requirements.txt from lesson, I think this is 9, you will have the right requirements.txt file to get SQLAlchemy. So that should be fine once you have that. So let's go in the backend directory over here. And let's make another file. We're going to make a new file, main.py. It's going to be the main entry point to our backend application. So the first thing that we want to do is to import FastAPI from, that's not right, from FastAPI, import FastAPI. So we'll start with that. Now that we have FastAPI imported, let's create a FastAPI endpoint. So let's say app equals FastAPI. We don't need any arguments right now. All right, now we want to make our first endpoint. So to do that, we do @app.get, and this is a function decorator, and what it's going to do is allow us to define our endpoints. So this will be our main endpoint right here, or our default endpoint. And then we just define a function. So let's define root or hello or main, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to call it hello, I think. Doesn't matter what you call the file or the function as long as it's right under the decorator. So we are going to return an object. Now let's just return a string. Hello from FastAPI. All right, now I believe that should work, so let's see if we can run this. So in my backend folder, I'm going to say UVcorn, which is the server we're going to use to run our backend application. So UVcorn space movie manager .main:\app. So this is the package, so movie manager, the file it's in, main, and the app, the actual application we're using. I'm also going to use --reload, and this will do a hot reload whenever we change any of the files in this backend folder. So if we do that, we're going to see that UVcorn is now running on this port. So if we go to that in our browser, we will see, hey, looky there, hello from FastAPI. So you can see it's raw JSON data, or just a string anyway, but it is in JSON format. It is a string. So we could return an object, but this is fine. What is very nice and something I love about FastAPI is if you go to /docs, it gives you documentation on all of your endpoints, and it does this by default. You can even try out most of the endpoints in the browser. Looky there, hello from FastAPI. The same thing we got from just going to our default endpoint. Nice. So there we go. We have set up the basics of our endpoint. Now let's do something a little bit more useful with it. Let's see if we can also get our SQL backend attached. So I'm going to make a new file over here. It's going to be called database.py. This is where all of our database functions will live, or at least all the ones to set up the database. So we're going to say from SQLAlchemy import create engine. And then we'll do from SQLAlchemy.ext.declarative import declarative base. And then from SQLAlchemy.orm import session maker. Now we need to make an engine. This is the thing that SQLAlchemy uses to interface with your particular database flavor. We're going to use SQLite for this, but SQLAlchemy can work with Postgres and MySQL and probably everything else. But we'll use SQLite because it's built into Python and it's just super easy to deal with. So I'm going to say engine equals create engine, and we're going to have the first argument is going to be, where we're going. So it's going to be SQLite : // and then a third / to get an actual path, and then / SQLite.database. And then we're going to add connect args, and that's going to be a dictionary. And we're going to pass the value check same thread, and that's going to be false. This is a special thing for SQLAlchemy with SQLite connecting to FastAPI. So SQLite typically does not allow different threads to connect to the same SQL database with SQLite. And that is a SQLite thing. But it is okay in FastAPI for reasons I don't fully understand. But I read the docs and they suggested this, so we're going to go with that. All right, also need to make a session. So we're going to make an object called session local, and that is from session maker. And we're going to say auto commit is false. We won't commit things by default. Auto flush is going to be false as well, and bind is engine. So this is going to allow us to make database sessions that are used every time we get a connection. And finally, we're going to make an instantiation or an object of declarative base. And this is basically going to enable us to create all of our tables and do other useful things. But we'll see how that works a bit later on. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Actually, I hate how that looks with the formatting, so let's do that instead. There we go, looks better. All right, the next step is to create our database models. This is what SQLAlchemy uses to, create your tables and be able to interface with them in an object-oriented style, which is really cool, especially if you've had a lot of experience with straight SQL. This is nicer. It's a lot nicer. So we're going to make something called a models.python file. That's where all of our database models are going to live. So in here, I'm going to copy a few things from my old project, just so I don't have to type them again. So from SQLAlchemy, we're going to import all these types. The Boolean type, a column type, a foreign key, an integer type, a string type, and a table. And then from the ORM, we're going to import relationship, which we won't be using just yet, but we'll be using eventually. And then from the database file, we need to import that base object we created. This is how we're going to expand our base and actually make tables. So let's start off by creating just a sample table. Let's make a table that has that is for the actors. So we'll set up a class for that. The class is going to be called actor. It derives from base. We can set the table name by giving it this dunder table name property and setting that to actors. That's what it's going to be, the actual SQL table name. We're going to create an identifier, which is going to be a column. It's going to be an integer type, and it's going to be a primary key. So set that to true. And by default, SQLAlchemy does primary keys of type integer to be auto increment keys. This will start at 1 and keep going, however long you need it to. We're also going to have a name. So a name for the actor. So we'll have a column. This is going to be a string, and we'll give it a length. I don't know what to put there. I'm going to put 55, but I'm not really sure what to put there. Nullable equals false. This means you cannot put null values in here. We cannot create an actor that has no name. And we need to set it to true. So uniqueness needs to be true. We should not have duplicate actors in our table. Okay, so we need to make many other tables that are like this. This was our actors table, but we also have categories, series, and studios. So let's go ahead and make those tables as well. All right, so here are the rest of our 4 tables. So we've got the category table, which has a table of categories, a series table, series, studio table, and they're all pretty much the same. They have an ID and a name on their table. So that's good for that. So now we also need a movies table that is going to be associated with all of these tables. So let's see how we're going to make that. So let's start out. We need a movies table. So we'll make a class movie, and that's going to be derived from base. Our table name is going to be movies. All right, so we're going to need an ID again, so we'll just copy that over there. For our movie, these are kind of, files you read off your hard drive. So we are going to have a file name. So let's make a file name property. It's a column string 255. We don't want this to be null, so we do want that to be nullable, or not nullable, and we do want it to be unique. You can't have two files with the same name in the same directory. All right, the name is going to be the actual movie's name, so it's pretty much the same thing, although we'll have a string 255, and we'll say nullable equals true. Maybe the movie has no name. I don't know. Maybe there's only a series or a category or something. We'll see what happens as time goes on. So I also want a series ID. I'm going to put it with the Python style though. So series ID is a column. It's going to be an integer. We are going to have a foreign key for this table. And the foreign key is going to be on the series.id. That's the primary key of the series table. Finally, we'll say that it is not nullable. That's not right. It is nullable. Yeah. So we don't have to have a series for a movie, so it can be nullable. In fact, I think all of these properties other than file name can be nullable. Oh, I know why you need that. You need that because when you first import things, all you're going to have is a file name, so everything else will be null. So, all right, that makes more sense. Okay, so then we're going to get a series underscore number. Again, it's a column. I guess I'll call this an integer. It's not a foreign key, though. It's just going to be nullable equals true. What else do we have? We've got the studio ID. Again, it's pretty much like the series ID. Stop doing that, Python, or VS Code. We need to make a foreign key on the studio.id, and nullable equals true. All right. What else do we have? And then this is going to be a Boolean flag called processed. So when we first import the movies from the hard drive, I want all of the ones that are processed to show, or not processed, to show up at the top of the table. So we're going to distinguish between movies that have been processed, like you just imported them, and movies that haven't been. And this is one way to do this. Maybe it's not the best way, but it's the way I thought of. So we're going to do that. So let's make another column. This is a Boolean field. Default is going to be false, and nullable is going to be false. We can't have this be null. So by default, we will not have processed anything we add to database in the beginning. All right. So now we need to add some relationships. So every movie has, some actors and categories and series. And we have relationships between all these tables. So we want to be able to get those from the movie table. This is the Object Relational Manager way to manage SQL tables. So let's see how we can do that. First, we are going to say we have another field. It's not a column in the table. It's a relationship that we'll be able to populate automatically on demand. So let's say we have actors. This is going to be the actors that are in this movie. And we'll say it's a relationship. And the relationship needs a name. I kind of forget why, but it does. So we're going to call that actor. Secondary, this is going to be how we associate this because I think how to phrase this. This relationship is many to many. movies can have multiple actors, and actors can be in multiple movies. So it's a many-to-many relationship. So to model that, we need a third table, or a secondary table in this case, that models this relationship. So we're going to create that in a little bit. But for now, we're going to call it movie actors table, and we'll sort that out in a minute. It's going to back populate something, and that idea is it's going to back populate movies. We'll see what that is in a minute. And then we're going to order by, and we're going to oh, you know what? This is the class name. That's what that is. Okay. I knew there was a reason I had to have that like that, but I forgot what it was. Okay. And we want to order by actor.name. So when we get the actors on a movie, I want to sort them alphabetically. So there is our first relationship. But we need to create this movie table, a movie actors table, and we need to figure out what this back populates thing is doing. So let's go ahead and do those things. So the first thing I want to do is make our association table. I'm going to put that up here because it's going to be right up here. So we're going to say movie actors, and this is equal to a table. The table is going to have a name. In this case, the table name is going to be movie actors. We need to tell it what the base metadata is. I honestly don't know what that does, but trust me, we need that in here. Then we define the columns, and the columns are the associations. So the columns are going to be clip ID. That's not right. Sorry, I meant movie ID. It's a foreign key of the movies.id, and it is a primary key. And we also need a second column. And this column is going to be pretty much the same thing, except in this case, it's going to be actor ID, and we're going to be in the actors table. So I believe that's right. So by defining foreign key in both places, we are defining a composite primary key. If you don't know what that means, it's a SQL thing. So, you know, I'm probably not going to go over all the SQL stuff, but it's important. You'll see how it works in a little while. Okay, so there is our movie actors table, but we have one thing missing in the actors table. I don't know if we'll actually use it, but it is nice you can do this. So remember, we had this movies thing, what it back populates. So back populates means if we are looking in this relationship, what in the other table does this fill out? I know, that probably doesn't make any sense. But let me see if it makes sense after I show you how it works. So we've got this actors table, and we're going to say we have another field. In this case, it's the movies field. The movies field here matches this movies property right over here. So we're going to say movies equals a relationship, and the relationship is to the movie table. Remember, the movie table here, or this is actually the class, not the table name. So make sure you use the class name, not the table name. The secondary, in this case, again, is, movie actors. And we back populates actors. So we are defining the relationship in both directions. So the actors can be in more than one movie. So this will be all the movies that actor is in. And it back populates the actors property, which is on the movie class. So this actors property goes to the actor table with this association, and that's how we get the actors. And we'll get that because we had this back populates field over here on the movies. So same way, we are back populating movies. This is what gets our movies property over here. So that is how we're defining this relationship both ways. So let's go ahead and add the same thing for categories, because categories are also a many-to-many relationship. A movie can be in multiple categories, and a category can have multiple movies. All right, so I've added the movie categories table, which this should be movie categories, not clip categories. Sorry, a lot of copy pasting from my Demi application. Again, base metadata. We've got our column movie ID and our column category ID. The foreign keys are the same as above, except we use categories ID this time. And they're both primary keys. So we've got our category, we've got our movies relationship. So if we have a category, we can find all the movies belonging to that category. And it is back populating the categories field. And there is our association table. Over here in categories, same thing. Our categories property is from the category table. Here is the way we can sort that. It back populates movies and it orders by category name. We should need to add an order on this as well, I think. Order by should be movie dot name. That's probably fine. Let's add that to both of our relationship categories. Actor, and yeah, that should be good. Okay, so we'll sort by the movie name when we get it in the other direction. Okay, so we also need to add two more relationships, one for the series and one for the studio. Now these are a bit different because they're not many-to-many relationships. It is one-to-one from the movie side, and it is many-to-one from the other side. So a movie is from one studio. A movie is on one series. But a series can encompass many movies, and a studio can make many movies. So the first thing we need to do is add the one-to-one relationship. The first part we've already done by making foreign keys to the series and studio ID columns. The second part is to make a relationship to get those actual entries, which will give us the name. So let's do series equals relationship. It's relationship with the series table, which is in the series class. We are going to back populate the movies entry in there. We're going to use list being false, and this will help us get the one-to-one relationship. Otherwise, it would return it as a list of one element instead of just one element. And then I think that should be it for this. So let's go add the other relationship real quick. The other side of this, which is in the series table. And this is going to be the movies. And that is going to be a relationship with the movies table. It's going to back populate series. And we're going to order by movies.name. Okay, so when we get the movies from a series or a studio, we will order it by the movie name. So this is the exact same thing we're going to do on the studio table, except this will back populate studio. And then we need to make the studio property here. Studio, it's going to be studio here. And I think that's good. Okay, let's see if we can test it out real quick. So from here in our main file, we're going to say from.database import, what does I want? Base? Is that all I want, really? I guess for now it's all I want. All right, and then we're going to do what? Right after we create our application, we'll do base.metadata.createAll bind equals engine. We need the engine as well, so let's import the engine as well. So if we do that, what we should see is a new SQLite database appear over here. And did we? Hey, there's a database there. And let's go to our terminal, and well, I didn't see it crash or anything, so what do I see in here in the backend file? No tables yet. Might have to do a little bit more to get that to actually work. So, Okay, real quick, I wanted to point out we do need to import from .models import base. Even though it's the same base coming from database, if we don't run these models and create these things, we're not actually going to have any of the classes for it to know what's going on. So just by importing that, we're going to run this file and create these things, which will set up our database stuff. So now that I have changed that, if we go back to there, we see SQLite.database is much bigger. And if we do SQLite and show tables, we do have all of our tables now. So yes, the database is working as long as you import base from the right place. So I believe that takes care of everything for this episode. Hey, hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, help us grow, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.